All right, Spurs fans, strap in for a tale of two halves of our very own fortress. Today, we're reliving the heart-stopping, nail-biting, and ultimately triumphant clash against Brentford. It was not, by any means, a walk in the park, but when has being a Spurs fan ever been about taking the easy route? Just when you thought it was going to be one of those days, the second half turned into a goal fest we haven't seen in quite some time. We're talking about a few minutes of pure footballing madness that had us all believing again. And then it got a little bit tight. And I don't know how you survived it. We'll find out later. But yeah, we're here to talk about Brentford. We're here to talk about transfers. And let's get going. I am joined here by A.
Hey.
Hello, A. And we're also joined by Ash.
Hello.
Hello. So, how many of you were clutching at your chest yesterday going, I can't take this much longer?
It was so frustrating, man. It was fractious is the word. Fractious. It was a crazy game. It was like all the worst performances of the season rolled into one in that first half. That's what it felt like. Yeah. It was like
but continue on. But I was just saying, I love your comments because you're like so during the match thread on CADS. Your comments are just hilarious. You know, it's like, okay, I'm going to commit to Harry right now.
it's. I guess we all go through the roller coaster of the
Not as much as that.
Yeah.
Yes, there are other ways of dealing with stress. let's go with more advised ways of dealing with stress.
It's just that, it feels like we've seen this before. Chelsea's done it to us, Wolves done it to us, Man City to some extent. West Ham has done it to us, and we've got to learn from that. And if we don't get wound up by these guys, we beat them. On footballing terms, we beat them. So
I have to say, it's been a long time since I've seen a team you just wanted to slap quite so badly. There was some really, really childish nonsense going on, mostly from Mope, who probably is the most annoying footballer I've seen since Richarlison in an Everton shirt. So, yeah. Now he's one of ours. We can allow that kind of thing. But I thought it was quite interesting is that every time one of their players got booked, Richarlison was straight in there, a little bit of a shove with the shoulder. Like, what are you doing? I know exactly what you're trying to get them sent off for having a reaction. Oh dear me!
I saw one comment. You can't shithouse a shithouser, and I'm talking Allison. I'm going, good comment, really.
That's probably the second.
He kept his composure quite well. I thought him and Romero, they drew a line. There was a line, and hopefully it means people are learning from certain things, and they kind of set an example for the others.
Romero probably had one of his most restrained games in a very long time.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's almost like he was the captain, and he realized, we've done this before, and I can't let my team down. So that's positive.
Yeah,
Good
I think
growth for him.
One of the things Andrew was saying earlier in the season, he's saying players are going to stop getting sent off because they don't want to miss out on games, because they want to be out there playing, and they're going to find that if they get sent off, there's nowhere for them to hide. We're not going to make excuses for them, and they'll have to sit out the bans, and it'll give an opportunity for someone else to come in and take their place.
Yeah. The other thing we forget is that they're so young. What were we doing at 25? Right? Not showing not that much restraint. I know I didn't.
I was buying my first house at 25, so that wasn't too bad.
Yeah, you're ahead of us.
Well, I don't know. When I say buying my first house cost less than my first car, so it was a mess. It had big holes in the roof and everything. Needed a complete rebuild. But yeah, certainly. I mean, we talk about people like Udogi. There's been a little bit of criticism about him today for effectively giving away 2 goals yesterday. Which the guy's amazing. He's such a fantastic footballer, and we saw that in him getting up the other end and scoring a goal, and the way he played generally. Yeah, there were a couple of errors, and yeah, they took advantage, but you wouldn't want him playing for anyone else, would you?
Can I make some comments about the game?
Of course you can.
Yeah, Go for it.
Yay!
Hey, we've got 3 hours. You've got time. All right. So
I won't,
we are here
yeah.
till 1 hour after the transfer window closes. So you've got time tonight.
All right. So having seen, you know, all of the games this season and then seeing a similar sort of strategy by the opponents, which is that low block, counterattacking, niggly, kick at our ankles, whatever. And in that first half, as lovely as our passes were, we just couldn't break them down. And I've seen this so many times this season. And I was thinking about it, and I was saying, okay, here's an example. Decky was in the box, had a right-footed shot on goal, was on, but he didn't do it. He tried to shuffle it back to his left. So I'm thinking, okay, so what's the difference between teams like Barca, who actually can break down these who used to break down these low block defenses? I'm going, well, they have a slightly better quality of play. Yeah. So I don't know if either the better quality or they're playing at a higher level. Okay, so that's one aspect, because we can't seem to break down the teams. Now, two other things. At the beginning of the game, I realized the importance of trying to score first. Remember the second half, we scored and we got 3 in a row. The opponents, these low block teams, they're not into their formation, they're not into their strategy. And I realized how vitally important it is to try and score not just one, but a couple of goals to bring them out of that low block, which is so hard to break down. And in the second half, it was like, okay, it was like another half. They didn't settle into their low block, and we caught them totally unaware and got 3 goals. And luckily we did. And lucky Richie got the third one. But there are so many teams, obviously not the teams above us, but the teams below us, including Aston Villa. They played that way against us when they came to the stadium. The low block counter-attacking, niggly, Matty Cash, Mope type, horrible guys. And we have to attack quickly, hopefully score and bring them out. Otherwise, I just don't think we have, like Decky. Well, why didn't you shoot with your right foot? Because he's not confident enough, whatever. And there's instances like that where we're just not there to break down these types of defenses. I've been thinking about this for a while.
Yeah, it's a difficult one. There's so much to look at in this, really. Why do we struggle against low block teams? Because they're not giving us the space to play our game. And why should they? They're under no rules to try. The rules have changed, everybody. The new rule book's in. We've got to give Tottenham a chance to play. It's not the way it works, you know. Everybody chooses how they're going to play. Brentford choose to be morons, but we'll make it work, and we do what we can. And realistically, we are 8 months into a new manager's tenure. It's a massive change around, not only in terms of players nowadays, because we've seen quite a few new players come in, but also style. A huge change in style. I can't remember a bigger turnaround ever in my time watching football from one manager to another. Anyone here think of anything?
No.
So it's not easy. So you've got to make that switch. The players have got to do it, and it seems like they've all bought in, but there are still going to be some elements there. When
Birkinshaw first came in, he was lucky to get. We'd been relegated. Lucky to get RC and Ricky in, and Hoddle was there, and that actually did change from a team that got relegated to a team that was competitive over the next 5-6 years. When Birkinshaw came in, anyway.
Yeah, fair enough. Sorry. Good call. But we've had players. Yeah, go on.
Yeah, sorry, you carry on. I'll go after you.
No. You are our guest. Join us and talk.
I think at the moment we're a very tempo-driven team. We need a good flow in the tempo, and the opposition knows this.
I'm sorry, what was the word? A what-driven team?
Tempo. We need the game to be played at a tempo, a high pace,
Yes.
and there's got to be a rhythm to the game. And I think when there's two ways of stopping us, I think, from most opposition. One is to keep the ball away from us, so dominate possession. And if you can't do that, then make it a really stop-start affair. And I think they did that well. So they don't allow you to get into your groove, especially early on. And we still want to play the way we are, so we force it. And when you force it, you give away possession. And by the nature of our formation and the way we want to play, we end up giving up a possession where we are susceptible to the counter attack, and that's exactly what's happened. And then it's more last ditch defending, and anything can happen there, and that's why we look so out at sea when that happens, because it's not, you're not set. We're a bit of a victim of the way we want to play, and that's, we're gonna have to live with it. The ways to get better is obviously to be even better in possession, and we've got players who are capable, but there we need some work as well. And I'll tell you the one thing I noticed, and I've noticed it for a while now, and I was wondering when the opposition is going to start picking up on it. We play out beautifully from the back, but if you watch Romero, Udogie, and Van der Ven, not so much Porro, the first touch, yes, we get to kind of move away from the man, but it's a big touch. The ball is kind of shifted away from you. And I think they've cottoned on to this. And you'll see when they were pressing, they already knew which way he was going to turn. And often we'd win the ball, but it wasn't easy. But there were cases where we didn't win the ball, and then we were in real trouble. So I think that would obviously be something that can be worked on. When you are moving the ball away to get away from an attacker to start the attack, we've got to be wary of where the ball goes to, and to cotton on to how quickly they're reading that, and do something different. So that's definitely the one thing on Ash's point. The other one was, man, I was crying out for people to shoot, because they were just, no, we're not going to shoot. So, there's no danger, crowd us out. And even if it was off target, or even if it was close, we would have given them something else to think about, because it would be like, we can't keep letting them shoot. One's going to go in, and they would have had to react differently. And we didn't provide that option for them.
Porro had two pot shots, I think, the second half, but they were over. He's got a great shot. It just, his technique is just not good enough. Obviously, I don't think I could do it.
I was going to say, let's put him up against you, see how he does.
Exactly. I wouldn't even compare myself. But he hits the ball so hard, to what A was saying. Yes, pot shots from a distance, and you know what? Keep at it, because maybe they're going to start flying in, which would be like that goal he scored there. I just want to mention. I want to get onto Udogie, because I know Adesh made a couple of comments in the match thread, but you can see it when they analyze the games, when we've got the fullbacks up and inverted. We really, besides the two center backs, there's these big squares of space that are available. So teams obviously know that. So they are trying to, exploit that area. So that's hopefully as we get better. I don't know what I never watched Celtic enough to know, how does one defend those big open spaces there? I don't know. How does one defend those open spaces there? Because they were getting, and the other one was just getting into, that's the one question. The second question, I really like Udogie, but he has this habit of standing. It's like he's standing on the ball, or the ball gets stuck underneath his studs, and he loses possession. I think it happened 3 times maybe twice, 3 times in the game. I'm wondering what's up with that, because then if you do that, those 2 big areas right next to each of the center halves is totally exposed, and which is what happened.
Number one,
I think Udogie.
Yeah, me too. I think for your first question, I think you need players who are comfortable playing in those wide areas. And I think we do have two centre halves that are capable of doing that. Three, because Joshin also can play, has played in that wider role. But yeah, so there's that. Point number two, Udogie, he's 20 years old. He's going to make mistakes. He's also one of our probably more technically adept players, really. The stuff that he's able to do. He's probably more of an attacking threat in terms of goals, shots on goals, and getting into the box and things like that than Porro is. He'll make chances, he'll score chances. He's such a really good player. But he's 20 years old. There's going to be mistakes that go along the way.
Yeah, I agree. I wanted him to be subbed, but not because I think he's a bad player, but I thought he was having a game that maybe we needed to protect him from a bit. That don't expose him. He was getting roasted, and he got roasted in the second half by De Silva quite often down that side. But to his credit, he showed other facets. I think he scored one, but he also made a really good driving run for the second one. So whereas we can say he did, was almost single-handedly caused 2 goals, he also made 2 goals, and I wanted him. I thought he needed a bit more protection, being a young man, and we didn't need him losing too much confidence. But I can see why he kept him on, because just taking him off might have been a knock to the confidence. And instead, Ange kind of said to him, "It's like, no, you go ahead, and you'll get it right." And he did, and he did.
Yeah.
So I'm a big fan of the way he handled it. But at the time, I was thinking 3 points. We need these points, and he was not having a good game.
That's in keeping with what Ange says. I'm sure Ange said, "Keep at it, keep doing it. You make those mistakes, but keep at it, keep doing it." I'm sure he did. I think after the game he said, "Yeah, well, we all make mistakes," and he just sort of let it go at that type of thing.
Yeah, I think
there's another weakness in his game, that he did something different from the Man City game, and like Romero showed an awareness for his temperament as a weakness and stepped it up. In the Man City game, Udogie got into positions and could not play the ball to Werner. And yesterday, he opened up his body and made that pass to Werner in space. And he did it a couple of times. And that alone is a show of improvement. And to do that while you're under the pump and not having a good game, it's just a testament to his character. And we always talk about players that we want to step up and deal in the difficult circumstances. And 20 years of age is brilliant.
Yeah, and I think that just shows that the side is learning as well. I mean, people forget it's a very young side. We've got 2 free starters who are over the age of 25, and that's including Werner now. So, there's an awful lot to be done, an awful lot of improvement that we can see, but there's space to make that. And you can see the players doing it, just in the space of a couple of games. Suddenly we've started finding Timo Werner. Suddenly we're taking advantage of his pace. And that boy has rocket fuel in his boots. He is so quick. There was one point last night, he lost the ball, and the guy was 10, 15 yards ahead of him, and he just caught him up, no problem, got the ball back. It was really great. I mean, first of all, it was great that he had the pace and the speed to do that, but secondly, he had the mindset, and he was prepared to chase that guy down instead of just leaving it to someone else to do that work, which other players, we've seen it in the past. But he's come in, and straight away he's got that mindset, and he's working hard, and he's doing the things that we need him to. And he was crucial in our win. He was fantastic. I mean, he got the supporters man of the match today.
It was a fantastic cross. I mean, how many times we waste those crosses from those positions, and he just put it on a plate for Brennan Johnson, who's credit to him for his movement and following the ball in.
Werner. We're talking about Werner, sorry.
Werner, yeah.
Werner put the cross in for Johnson, yeah. I said it was a good assist, a really good assist.
Yeah, he's kind of surprised me, because I didn't really know much about him. I knew he played in Chelsea before, and that turn of speed that you guys are saying he had was really kind of great. And it was actually great to see Johnson come on as a sub, because not only did he score a goal, there was another situation where who scored? Richie scored, and he was behind him open.
Yeah.
You know, he could have scored another goal. And I went, wow, this is kind of interesting that he comes on with that turn of speed that he has and whatever, less pressure, you know. By the way, your doggy is 21 and he was born in Fair Verona, where Shakespeare based. I forget which play it was, but he's 21. So he's a little bit older.
I thought I think he's only just turned 21, so yeah. But yeah, I thought it was Brennan Johnson's shot that Richarlison got the... Johnson's shot was blocked, which I thought fell to...
That's Madison.
That's Madison. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
And that was, I thought that was the main reason for bringing Werner into the game. The main reason for the change, because Madison was finding him with passes, because he's got that vision that other players just don't have.
Yeah, it was a huge difference. Yeah. The other thing is, you know, Johnson was bought with huge potential, and you can see the raw ingredients there, probably to play this role. And the situation we had with injuries and suspension forced something else, and then he was forced to play almost to start every game, and that put a lot of pressure on him, and probably wasn't exactly what we planned for his development. So this is almost how we would have wanted to bring him into the game. So yeah, that's something to consider as well.
Good point. Who was your man of the match? Richie worked his socks off so much. I've never seen one of our forwards be that active. Well, Harry used to be pretty active, but it's so active. And that thing he did about when he scored his goal, and then he threw the darts, and then he pointed at himself, going like, "I remember what he." I actually really love the guy. I think it's great. Good on Richie. I thought he was
my man of the match.
Yours?
It wasn't only the goal. He held up the ball really well. He won a lot of fouls. He played a lot of passes when he was back to goal to set other people up. He was in their face, and it's some of the unseen stuff. Like we talk about, we press from the front, but if you press from the wrong angle, they still have an easy out. If you watch Richie, he pressed the keeper from the keeper's left side to the right side to force them to play the ball long. Yes, Udogie was having a difficult time, but he's a big guy, and that ball in the air is easier for him to deal with than Porro, who we've seen struggle. So immediately he was already protecting our shorter side from their long ball with clever pressing. And our midfield was adapting to that, because now you've cut out one half of the field. It's not going that way. So we were able to condense that area and win the ball back quickly. So I thought it was really intelligent. It's probably something that's been worked on in the training ground, but he did it brilliantly. He harassed them. I thought it was his best game for us. And it's a game where he finally got the Player of the Match award and managed to keep the trophy instead of stealing one of his teammates. So that was good.
Yeah.
We have to admit that probably that's that injury that he was carrying, and the surgery has freed him up to be, to run more, to do what the things A was just saying, fantastic. And he's got 8 goals now for the season. He's 4 behind Sonny. He's 6 behind Salah and Haaland. Our 2 top scorers then have got 8 and 12. That's 20 goals between them. 2 scorers.
Yeah, and 7 on the bounce. 7 and 7.
Yeah.
Not 7 on the bounce. 6 on the bounce, but 7 and 7.
Yeah.
That's pretty good.
Yeah. So I thought he was excellent. You know who else? in a somewhat quieter way, I thought actually Van de Ven was also very solid. But I thought Romero, as captain, has really stepped it up. There's almost an imperious way that he plays, and there's more there to come, I believe. and I think he's taken on the leadership. I think what was it? I think it was Ange I'd heard when Sonny is here. When they come into training, Sonny actually goes up to everybody, shakes their hand, nods, whatever, kibitzes with them. And he goes, and Andrew's saying that Romero has started to do that, taking on his responsibility. There was one
I saw he
move.
was taking a bit of stick for the opening goal. I actually thought it was quite clever defending, and he got unlucky.
He did
Because
get
I thought Tony was expecting him to come in, and he would have just crossed it very easily for a tap in for Mope. And yes, they scored a goal, but it was the much harder option. He almost picked him out like Van Dijk and Sissoko all those years ago. And he took a shot that was saved. It just that it bounced, unkindly for him.
And it did take a
But
deflection off the back of his leg, didn't it? Because it wasn't not. It's not just. I'm not the only one who saw that. It took a deflection off the back of his leg, which made it even more difficult for Vicario to get anywhere near it.
And it wasn't.
It was close.
It wasn't a clean effort by Mope either. He sort of scuffed it. Yeah.
I think it would have been a tap in if he didn't do what he did, and he saw it. He could see it, and he's a great reader of the game. So it looked a bit clumsy and a bit clownish, but I think he played the percentages, and he was quite unlucky.
Yeah.
I know. I thought Romero had a really good game. Going back to Richarlison, I've always felt that during his time at Spurs, he's been a very un-Brazilian-like Brazilian striker. It's been hard running, hard working, but not actually showing that many bits of amazing skill. But yesterday there were some really nice bits and pieces he did. So he was chopping in, he was little turns and stuff, and you're like, oh right, so he is actually Brazilian then. He does have that in him. It was nice to see because he managed to put together a really good performance yesterday. I'm not sure if he'd be my man of the match, but I don't know who would be, because there were so many good performances from so many players. You could pick out 4 players, I think, that would be in with a chance.
Yeah, I think being the match winner and putting in that performance made,
Yeah, you might be
did
right.
it for me. Yeah. I made a call yesterday, so I did get dug out for asking Adogi to be sub, but
Up to the halftime.
but in that before that, at 1-0 to Brentford, I said that we would need 3 goals, and because Tony would score for us to win the game. And a little bit after that, I said I really would like Richie and Madison to score, and Richie scored 2 minutes after that. So I don't get everything wrong.
Even when we got 3 goals, I was thinking we need a 4th here because this is not going to be comfortable otherwise.
Sure.
Madison, how many of you were extremely happy to see him back and getting closer to the form we saw when he was injured?
I like when he's got a smile on his face and he plays football with that sort of like a kid's joy about him. It's just wonderful to see. It's going to take a couple more games to get into it, but he's so important and he's so different. I think he's so different than any player we have on the team. I don't think Decky, Lo Celso has some of those qualities, but he's always injured. So yeah, I think and this whole thing with the darts thing, I love that celebration. It's so unique and whatever, and everyone gets involved, and now they're supporting him. And he's on the leadership. I think Romero, the spine, right? Vicario, Romero, Madison, and then Sonny up top, the spine. And 3 of them are in the leadership. Vicario probably should be in that leadership group, possibly 2. So yeah, your question about Matters, good to see him getting better, good to see him back. I think there's more to come.
I think one thing that's very apparent, though, in the Premier League, you cannot carry 2 players who are not up to fitness in your midfield. And you could tell that both Bentancur and Madison are not fully fit. And it showed in slightly being off the pace in the Premier League, especially when there's a team that's always at you, that's trying to, make the game as stop-start as possible.
Yeah.
You can't carry 2 of those players.
And I think Ange had to make a decision at halftime. It was going to be one of the two. But again, like you guys have pointed out, the skill set of Madison can't be replicated by any of our other players. So he stayed on. And it was a good job that he did as well.
It's a good point. I didn't really realize what, but definitely the last two games, even the Man City game, actually since he's come back, Bentancur hasn't looked really sharp. You know what he did? That one game before he got injured, the Aston Villa game for like 20 minutes, and then he got injured by that guy, Cash. By the way, Mope is now up with Cash, most hated opponent. Yeah. What do you think is up? Is that he's just getting back to fitness because he's been out for most of the years? You think that's what it is? Hopefully he's still not carrying anything.
Well, his first game back, he played well, but I think that could potentially just be adrenaline, and adrenaline will only get you through a certain amount of time, a certain amount of games, until you can no longer rely on that. He needs to build up that base of fitness, which, having been out for so long, is going to have been affected. So, I mean, I am not one to talk about a base of fitness. Come on, let's be honest. But that man has. You look at his training videos; he takes it seriously.
I think he's my favorite player. I'm going to just come out and say he's my favorite player. He's the player I like to watch the most because he's outrageous. And the first game he came back against United, he was imperious. But I think we have to consider that he made himself available even though he wasn't fully fit.
Mm-hmm.
And that in itself will cause fatigue and other things later on. And we haven't had a continuous run of games. So, I wonder if he's just feeling it now, you're right, whether it's adrenaline or maybe it's a different type of opponent. Like United were never able to press us and put us under the pressure that Man City and Brentford did in the midfield yesterday. And I guess when you're not fully fit, that's when it's going to show. But I think we must start the most.
So both those, Madison and Ben, are going to add more as they do get healthier.
Mm-hmm. And Saar will be back, hopefully, for the Everton game.
Oh, yes.
Yeah. I think that's our optimum midfield, by the way. Madison, Bentancur, Saar. For me, anyway. Yeah. I think we miss that energy. He does the simple things really well. And he does the covering really well. And his athleticism is like 1.5 people in that midfield. And I think that's why we look so fractious defensively as well, as we don't have that extra body that's coming in and bullying people and getting ahead of them to the ball and aerially winning a lot of things that come back in the second, the second ball sort of stuff.
Yeah.
And he supports the forward guys, but he does a lot of defensive work. And can you imagine if he gives freedom to Bentancur and Madison? I can't wait for that to click. Can't wait for that to click. Yeah.
Stu, would you agree with that that's our best, or would you want to see Basuma in there with those other two guys that he mentioned?
I'm a big Basuma fan when Basuma is on it. I think we saw at the start of the season how good he can be, and then Maddison was out, and I think it allowed other teams to press him a bit more. Now Maddison is back, he's going to get more space. He's going to be able to do his little twists and turns and make him look so good. But we're going to have at least 4 extremely good, effectively first teamers, first choice midfielders that we've got to fit into 3 spots. Somebody's going to have to miss out. And I don't think you can have I don't think there's a bad choice to be made in there. For me, Maddison gets in every game if he's fit, if he's able to. I'm almost with you in terms of Bentancur being my favourite player. He's my second favourite player right now. Only Sonny gets in ahead of him.
Who does?
Sonny. Sonny just plays with a joy about him that you just gotta love. I feel I'm such a big fan of Sonny. I love the way he plays football. I love what he brings to the team. He's genuine. He's a proper gentleman on the pitch, and he's got that class that we need to have about us. And I don't think we'd have seen the kind of stuff we saw against Brentford if he'd been on the pitch. I think he'd have been like, yeah, we're not getting involved in this. We're going to rise above it. And that's exactly what Ange wanted. Because Ange, I think, made some points at half-time and clearly said, no, we're going to change things around a bit. I thought Skip was unlucky to get taken off. I thought Skip had a good game. But
Me too.
Højbjerg came in. Højbjerg came in and had a good game again. I'm starting to have to eat some humble pie on a regular basis here because, as everybody knows, I've been fairly critical of him, but he's put in some very good performances.
We've actually got six
But
guys.
you've
For
got
that.
it right.
There's 3 positions, by the way. 6.
Nah, we've got 6 guys for 3 positions, but there's 4 players who like those guys are starters. Which one do I drop? The other 2.
what about
Yesterday was made for Højbjerg, and I said it during the game. He needed to come on. This was a game for him. And yes, he can slow down our play when it's a flowing game. But when it's not a flowing game and we're under pressure, it helps to have somebody put their foot on the ball. He made a couple of mistakes, but other than that, he was really good. And then coming back to your midfield, we play this really physically onerous game, physically telling game. And the midfielders and the wing backs are the guys that feel it the most. And can you imagine saying to guys, listen, go ahead, give it everything, as just bend yourself 50 minutes, because there's 2 new midfielders coming on. I wish we had the same options at wing backs, because you'd ask them, don't hold anything back. You go 100%, your maximum output. That would scare the living daylights out of teams. It'll be similar to the bomb squad coming on from the Rugby World Cup final, 7-2 split, and something like a 7-1 split. And that's how the Springboks won the World Cup. And I think that's the way to go. Eventually, we want to be there.
What about, since we just talked about the midfield now, what would be our optimum front 3? Because Sonny's coming back. Decky has been a bit quiet the last few games. So we've got 5 guys there, right? 5 guys for those front 3. With Johnson, Sonny coming in, and then those 3 that started. What do we think about what would be our optimum up front there?
That is a really difficult question because Richarlison at the moment is undroppable, I feel. He's played himself into such a rich vein of form, scoring goals, working hard for the team, tracking back and knocking the defenders off the ball, and that's immense. He's effectively made himself undroppable right now. So, so you're putting Timo Werner and Son, unless you're going to move Timo Werner over to the right. But then that means that Kulusevski and Johnson can't play. But then Johnson was kind of expected to be coming off the bench and being an impact sub. So maybe that's where we're going to... So there's so many different options. I genuinely don't know. And it's a great thing to do. I would keep Richarlison at the moment, because I don't think we've got a better option, but I also think he's in a fantastic vein of form. I would keep Sonny, keep him in the middle. I'd bring Sonny in, and then it comes down to, well, do you want the pace of Werner or do you want the pace of Johnson? Right now, I think I'd go for Werner first, because I think he's got the experience to make it count, whereas Johnson is still learning the game to a certain extent.
So you're actually relegating Decky down below those 4. He's almost in the 5th position then.
No, I think he's equal 4th, because he's another option you can bring in if you need someone who's got that control, that work rate. He works so hard, that guy. He is immense. He's up and down the wing all the time. He's closing players down. He will play wherever you want. He's played up front for us. He's been a fantastic player. And he was not a lot of money either, considering the amount of money the players are getting signed for. He was a snip, a bargain of a buy. So at the end of the day, there is no shame being on the bench of Tottenham Hotspur nowadays, because you're getting surrounded by some really good players. We could do with a couple more additions, and I'm sure we'll get onto that later when we talk transfers. But there's some talent coming through. There's some talent at the club, and the future is particularly bright, I feel.
Yeah, I think it's a horses for courses situation.
Yeah.
You got to look at your opposition. If you've got maybe fullbacks that are susceptible to really technical players, then Deki gets in. Can you imagine having to deal with Deki and Son for a whole game and a high intensity, and then the last 20 minutes you've got to keep up with Turbo Timo?
Yeah. And Johnson, as they bring on
And
Werner and Johnson at the same time, you're like, oh my, against tiring legs. They go, no, this is not
We've
working
got 5
for me.
subs, so you could have the 2 midfielders come on fresh and 2 wingers come on fresh, and I think that's the kind of place that you want to get to as a squad, and you can see how well that they're building the squad, and I think that's what's good. That's what they're going for eventually. Yeah.
Yeah. You just mentioned just a few minutes ago, and it was a good point about we really don't have, since we've got quite a bit of competition with midfield and the front players. There's really not much competition for the 2 inverted fullbacks, is there?
No, there isn't.
There isn't, and that's somewhere where we are lacking. Do we have anybody that I don't know if any of those guys, Solomon, Royale, I don't know if any of those guys can actually play. We have Davis. By the way, he was doing great, and now he's not even getting a sniff now, we really
But he was doing great at centre back, not fullback.
He was. Yeah, but he's still also an option at left fullback, inverted fullback. So yeah, is that where since we're getting to the transfer, is that where we need to beef up a little bit with some quality replacements for your Doggy and Poro?
I think there's only so many players you can have in a squad because of the foreign player limits to start with.
We can get rid of a couple.
We need to get
Manuel Solomon. We could.
Just looking at the news now, Hill is staying at Tottenham. He is not going to Brighton, so that'll be one player we're not getting rid of. But Velis apparently is going to Sevilla, so that's another spot. But if you want,
we got rid of Perisic, right?
Perisic is gone. It's gone Hajduk split. Yeah,
Velis wouldn't have counted because he falls under the under 21.
He's under the under 21 section, as does Udogi and Sarr. But we've got. There's a player that people haven't talked about playing right back, which we were talking about last year, and nobody's talked about it this year. Deki, Kulusevski.
No,
Kulusevski under Conte, there was talk of him playing, and I think he did at one point play right wing back. And if we want an attacking player that can come inside and will work his nuts off, then Kulusevski could well be that player in a pinch. But do we want it on a regular basis? Absolutely not. But if we absolutely needed someone to come in and do that role, he would probably do a very good job.
So I'm at the opinion that we need a left back, but not a right back.
Right back, we've got Emerson. Left back, we've got Emerson. Right centre back, we've got Emerson.
Centre back, we've got Emerson.
Right. Left centre back, we got Davis.
I love Emerson.
Yeah.
I think every squad, you think about Man United's great squads. Nobody can convince me that Phil Neville was the greatest player. And they had a few guys in there.
I think even Phil Neville will admit that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they had these players that you need for everything, whether it's mentality, whether it's helping the other players, fitting in, never complaining, doing your best. Emerson and Davies are those guys, and I will still have them in my squad always. For the foreseeable future. And whether it's left back or centre back or full back, they're there for that reason. But I think on the right, you're correct. We have options that we can do. Also, Poro's a bit more experienced and older than Udogi, and I think sometimes we need to take the young man out, and yes, he needs to play, but he also needs to stay fresh. And you don't, fatigue itself can do things to people. You have a bad game because you're just a millisecond off on everything that you do. and he needs adequate cover, and perhaps he needs somebody to push him if he's going to be this elite player that we think he's going to be. And you might not get that if he never has any competition.
I think that's the one position we are actually quite weak in, because I don't think Davis can play that to the same level. Not even to the same level, to a cover level. I think he is now a centre-back for us. If we wanted to play a more traditional left-back, then great, he can do that as well. But he is not an inverted full-back who's going to be bombing up and down. He tried to do it early in the season when Udogie was suspended, and it didn't work for him, I felt. Emerson can play there, but he's also a little bit wasteful at times, and his passing is not adventurous enough. It's a little bit too safe. It doesn't have that cut and thrust that we need. But then
his
how
quality
do you cover a player like
lacking.
Udogie? How do you cover a player like him? He's so good. And he's going to be, we've got him on a 7 or 8 year contract. He's going to be with us for a long time.
6 years plus option.
Yeah.
I think Emerson plays to the instruction though. Even though he's limited, he still gets into those positions. He still tries to get forward, and I think he has a goal already this season. So for me, it's not so much a worry with him there. Yes, it's not the same level, but it's to an adequate level for some games.
Yeah.
Where we could rotate. On the left side, I think you're right that Ben Davies is our covered centre back. We've got 4 centre backs, and I think that's his role now. Yeah, and that means we're missing left back cover.
Yeah.
What do you think, Ash?
Yeah. Well, if we're going through all the players, I think we mentioned this a couple of weeks ago. Stu might have mentioned if those English backup goalies are not that good, we need somebody better than Forster as our backup. So starting at the goal, yes, probably some backup for the 2 fullbacks, and not just the squad members who are also very important. It seems like we've got where do we fit a guy like, I don't even know if he's that good, Conor Gallagher, when we've got 6 guys into 3 places. I don't know if Conor Gallagher, that guy, even fits in. And then going up front, are we ever going to give Dean Scarlett or the other guy Parrott a chance, or even this Velise? So maybe we don't need that many more new players.
Well, I don't think we'll see anyone come in tonight.
Right.
So, I mean, our initial thoughts has to be what's going on tonight. I think now we're team building for the future. You know, the Bergvall guy, 17-year-old Danish player, obviously Swedish, 17-year-old Swedish player. If we manage to get him in, because we're up against Barcelona, they want him, we want him. It's a choice between the two. We don't even need to get him in now, because he's not going to come till the summer at the very earliest, and he'll be 18 then. So 3 years down the line, he'll count as homegrown. So we can sign him in the summer, and that doesn't need to be done tonight. The reason why we were interested in Noosa, I felt, was because if we signed him in this window and sent him back, he would count as homegrown in 3 years' time and give us a little bit more depth. And I thought maybe he's the kind of player that could fill in for Sonny later on as Sonny gets into his later years, because he's turning 32 soon, if he hasn't already. You know, we need to start thinking long term. We need to start thinking future planning. And we maybe have done that a little bit already with Velise and Richarlison. Maybe he is our future planned player for that position. We got Dane Scarlett. We got Troy Parrott, who will probably move on in the summer, I suspect. There's other big clubs interested in him. AC Milan apparently would like to take a look at him. And maybe if we're not going to be playing him for the good of his career, we need to say, right, okay, off you go. But by the way, we'll have a 50% clause in there. So any profit you make, we'll take half of. And we'll also have a buyback clause as well. So just in case he does turn out to be magic, then we'll get him back. We'll see how it goes.
What I brought up his name. What do you think about this Conor Gallagher situation? Where would he have fitted in?
For me, he would have been a Højbjerg replacement. You sell Højbjerg, you bring him in. But Højbjerg said, I'm not leaving. And Gallagher apparently doesn't want to leave Chelsea. And why would he? He's got 18 months left on his contract. He's about to head into a point where he could end up for a very, very big payday. He'd have to be a bit daft to give that up, really. Unless you're signing him to be a first-team player, which he wouldn't be, in my eyes. Then where do you play him? Is he going to be happy to come off the bench? I don't think he'd want to go from being Chelsea's captain, one of Chelsea's first choice players, to sitting on the bench and waiting to be brought on.
Absolutely. Is he that good?
He's good. He's a good player. He's a good player, and he's got all round abilities. He works hard. He's got the ability to run with the ball. He's also got the ability to score and make goals. His numbers were very, very good when he was at Crystal Palace.
Is he better?
The thing is, he's homegrown.
Yeah, homegrown as well. Yeah.
Is he better than is he better than our top 4 midfielders?
No, I don't think he is.
Okay.
I mean, maybe you could probably put him on a level somewhere with Sarr, maybe, and say, right, okay, can he compete with him? And that's probably where he'd be competing for a place. But that's where Højbjerg's competing for a place. That's where Skip's competing for a place. So, you know.
And what about this Donnelly? Yeah. Is he ever going to get a shot at anything? He gets 2 minutes. But you like him,
very young. He's still very young.
Very young.
I have to say, I was impressed by him yesterday. He came on, had a little bit of problem. He took the guy down, and he took a yellow card for the team. And I was like, that is the sign of a mature player. Well done, kiddo. Because like, you don't see 18, 19-year-old players do that. You see 32, 33-year-old players do that. It was a really nice bit of play from him, and it stopped them getting a break. It's exactly the kind of stuff they'd done to us all game. So I thought, yep, good one. Keep it up.
He's a big guy. He's a bit of a unit.
Oh, he is? Is that right?
Yeah.
6-footer, I think. Yeah.
6'3"?
Yeah, he was
6-ish, I think. 6 foot, 6'1".
Yeah, he didn't look like a young kid, but you can they're definitely for the future. And you can see there's a real plan around them. Give them some experience and get them playing. I like Feli's move to Sevilla. Parrott's got a good move in the Dutch league, and probably his next move would be a step up. Dutch league not being what it was, and we'll still wait and see on him. I think.
Who are you talking about? Who's
Parrott.
that?
Parrott.
Troy Parrott.
Parrott and Feliz being away, I would think that Scarlett's going to get some minutes in the Premier League if we need to take Richie off, for example. So I think we're gonna, because he can't go out. He's reached the limit for number of clubs per season.
Because he played for us in the Carabao Cup, so he couldn't go to another team. Yeah,
he couldn't go to another team, so he's got to stay with us. And I think it's they're having a look at everybody, and if they're good enough, we'll see them. Dorrington's got an injury, but from what I've seen of Dorrington, he's not ready for full men's football. He's still a bit light. Phillips is physically strong, but he doesn't have the ball playing capability that we want from our centre backs that I think Dorrington has. So they have the opposite at the moment anyway. They have the opposite skills, if you like, or abilities. So Phillips needs to improve his on-ball play because he's very good at defending. But if we play the way we do and we demand of Van der Ven and Romero, he doesn't have that yet. Whereas Dorrington seems to be a natural ball player, but he's not there physically yet. So, but we've seen plenty of kids dominate because they were bigger than everybody and created a big hype around them for them to fall off. And it's nice to have the opposite come through as well, because he will fall out and he will get stronger. And if he has the other skills that we're really looking for, then I think he's going to be a decent little player.
I just want to see some of those guys given a shot, because otherwise, why do we have an academy? Like really, this guy Iago, this Scarlett, Donnelly, Dorrington, Phillips. All Phillips came in. Otherwise, why? Because there are teams who don't even bother, right? Do Man City even promote? Are they? I mean, do they even, some of these other teams, do they actually promote any players at all? Like, why can't we if they do,
Yeah, but Man City do. I mean, you're looking at Bob, you look at Foden's come through.
Yeah, Rico
Then they've
Lewis.
got that
Yeah,
Rico
well,
Lewis. Yeah, but
that's what I mean.
but
Why
they
can't
they come through, and they do go out on these loans before they come through. So I think we're
I like
getting
to see
there.
that? I'd like to see another Harry Kane type situation,
Harry Kane
I don't
is
think it's
he's a one in a generation type player. You don't get many Harry
No,
Kanes
type of
to.
guy, he went out on loan and
Yeah.
developed and then came back and then impressed in that sense.
But I would say this, Ash. I agree with you, but I think it's a work in progress, and we've made a lot of changes around the club, and that also includes the youth setup. And it's going to take some time for that to see the rewards of that. But already you can see the loans are being done in a much more organized fashion. They're choosing teams that suit the way we want to play. I believe that Spurs have clauses for game time now after what's happened to Scarlett, for example, not getting played, and that Spurs actually pay the wages for the loan players, not the clubs paying our loan players' wages. So and it has targets in there that so much percentage of their wages gets paid if they feature in so many games. And these clubs are outside of the Premier League. There's a lot of them that are struggling financially. So this is quite a big boost for them. And so things like that, they're helping them get game time. But also, if you look at the structure, Mun's come in from Man City, and there's almost like a City group-like infrastructure being set up. So while it's frustrating now, I think it's going to reap rewards later on.
Yeah, there's a certain amount of long-term thinking going on that seems to have been in place for quite some time. We're starting to see it, the financial side of things with Levy. He's had a lot of criticism. I've constantly said we're up against clubs that are effectively on financial steroids. And unless we're going to be chucking money up against a wall, and it's not always something we've done well. When we've spent big, we haven't always bought well. I've always felt we've made better choices by making smart purchases instead of big purchases. And throwing money up against teams like Liverpool, Chelsea, Manchester City, Manchester United, when they've got all the money to spend in the world, it's almost a crazy thing to ask, because there's only a certain number of Champions League places. Only, there's not many clubs in the top 5 or 6 who would be really, really badly affected if they chucked a huge amount of money at it and didn't qualify, and we would be one of those clubs. If we spent 400 or 500 million, like we've seen Chelsea do, like we've seen Manchester City do, like Newcastle would like to do, if we spent that and didn't qualify for the Champions League, there would be a massive hole in our budget and we'd be in trouble. So.
But guys, always lovely to talk to you guys, shoot the breeze about Spurs, and it was a lovely chat this evening, but it's kind of late for me here, and
No worries,
I've got
man.
work in the morning. So good night. It's always been a pleasure.
Thanks,
we'll
A.
chat soon.
Thanks for dropping in.
Bye.
See you next time.
Cheers. Bye.
Yes.
All right. So let's go through and see some of the deals that have been done in the transfer window. Crystal Palace has signed midfielder Adam Wharton for £18 million from Blackburn Rovers. That's a player that we were linked with. I
think you mentioned him last or something like that. Yeah.
Yeah. I've seen a lot of links. I've not seen a lot of him, and I'm not really sure why we were linked, because he seemed reasonably vanilla. Obviously, there's a good player there. There's a good player there, but there's not one that's going to step up and make a huge difference to our team, I feel. Sheffield United signed Everton defender Mason Holgate on loan. He's been out on loan at Southampton and rejoined them. Villa forward Bertrand Traore joins Villarreal on a free transfer after terminating his contract. FC Seoul have made an offer for Jesse Lingard, who's been out of contract without a club for 6 months now. Burnley have signed 21-year-old centre-back Maxime Esteve on loan from Montpellier until the end of the season. Pablo Fornals is set to rejoin Real Betis from West Ham. Nottingham Forest signed striker Rodrigo Ribeiro from Sporting Lisbon. That's on loan. Lyon signed Nottingham Forest midfielder Orel Mangala on loan. There's a lot of loans happening. I think there's a lot of wages being covered. Aston Villa have signed 21-year-old forward Morgan Rogers from Middlesbrough for £8 million plus add-ons. Never seen him play. Got no idea what he's like. Newcastle have signed 18-year-old midfielder Alfie Harrison from Manchester City for an undisclosed fee. Okay. Brighton midfielder Mahmoud Dahoud has joined Stuttgart on loan. Fulham are close to a loan deal for Chelsea striker Armando Broja. Another loan. Bournemouth signed striker Enes Unal on loan from Getafe. Newcastle midfielder Isaac Hayden has joined QPR. Finish it for me, Ash. On. Come
what?
on. On loan. Once again, everything. There's so many loans being done. So yeah, on top of that,
the names were putting me to sleep, Stu.
Yeah. On top of that, Valise has gone out on or is going out on loan. There's a lot of interest in Hill going out on loan. I think if a Spanish club came in for him, he would go. So there's still, yeah. No, I think he'd probably go on a loan. I don't think they've got the money to buy him permanently. Although apparently we're prepared to take quite a loss on him. So I've seen £7 to £8 million being touted as the price that would see him leave the club.
And what about permanently injured Gio? Can we just sort of slide him out the back door?
Would someone take him? He's a good player, but
he is a good player.
Would he pass a fitness test?
like Noosa. Yeah. Is that dead in the water, by the way?
Looks like it's dead in the water to us. The theory is that Brentford might try and renegotiate it, but it'll be a move for the summer, and it would be not the £35 million they were talking about, £35 million euros they were talking about before. It will be significantly less because of his knee injuries and back injuries.
So just before we brought him up, we were talking about who?
Wharton, wasn't it? Adam Wharton?
No. Just literally slipping somebody out. Oh yeah, Lo Celso.
Lo Celso, yeah. Yeah, again, I would like to keep him around just for the cover in the squad. He's got a skill set we don't have many players have. And also he's made of glass, so no one's going to sign him for
the 2 games that he might be eligible to play before this season ends.
Yeah, well, we'll see.
It's too bad. You're right, because he has some skills, skills like that. But
there was a video. They were going through the rehab, and he was next to Bentancur. Bentancur straight leg, massive lunges, massive stretches with the bands they're using, and Gio is not putting in the same kind of effort, not having the same kind of stretch, bent knee instead of a straight leg, and there are people going, there's not really much of a surprise that he's getting injured because he's not putting in the same kind of work.
Oh, he's not. Oh, I thought that he was favoring what you were saying. He's favoring because his hammies are not good or whatever. That's what I thought. So he's just not putting in the work. So
well, if he's not stretching out his hammies properly, then that can lead to extra problems. So
that's just, you noticed yourself?
No, I didn't notice. I'm not. I don't come up with that stuff. That was other people online saying, physios and things like that saying the kind of work he's putting in there is likely to lead to injuries because he's not putting in the same kind of stretches. Wow. Which makes sense when you see how he plays.
Absolutely makes sense. Wow, no kidding. Yeah, so send him up the side door if we can. I don't know how much longer we actually have him on contract for.
18 months, I think. He'll leave end of summer of 2025. I think he's out of contract.
Where's that other guy? The Galatasaray guy? I thought they dropped him and he's
Tongi.
Yeah, is he in the ether somewhere in between?
He's still. Well, again, there's confusing reports, right? So Galatasaray is said to have decided they want to keep him because he's knuckled down. He started playing some games and he started to show something for them. And then there's reports of, Tottenham want to bring him back because maybe we think he can do something. I will be honest, I do not look at him and go, yeah, that's a player that Ange Postecoglou is going to get along with and feel that he can absolutely do something for his side. No, not a chance. Sorry, fella. No, not for me. There is such a talented player there. As I said on X, he was supposed to be our next Moussa Dembele. He's now looking like our next Razor Ruddock. So
those two guys came in Poch's last partial season, in Poch's last transfer window, in the 2019 summer window, if I'm correct.
Yeah.
Those two guys, and they were like, oh yeah, he's been screaming for, to some transfers, and these two guys, 60 for one and 50 maybe for the other, or 40, 100 million for the two of them. So wow,
Yeah, big money for those two players, and we've not seen the return on it. That's what I'm saying. So, we've made better signings by spending less money and being cannier and craftier in what we're doing. Sonny cost 22 million.
There's other ones.
Yeah.
Yeah. Cario, how much did he cost?
17, I think. Similar amount of money for Papsar.
Yeah.
Udogi was not huge money. If you're sensible, if you'll make the right choices, and that's all it comes down to is good transfer dealings, and you're purchasing with a plan. And I think that's what we've been doing. So it's going to be interesting to see whether that carries on, because someone like Dragusin could really show to be an excellent player. And from what I've seen on the pitch so far, he looks suited to Premier League football. Let's hope that carries on.
Yeah. I'm just trying to think of something. Tottenham in those latest rankings were the richest. Well, for one season, I think it's in terms of revenue, the richest team in London. Yeah, gone ahead of Chelsea and Arsenal.
Considering Chelsea's financial problems, that's not a major surprise, I think. But the massive jump has been
But is that revenue coming in?
Yeah, it's money coming in. So sponsorship and the stadium is the deal. Is what's made it for us. It's just changed everything. So spending the time to get that right, which they obviously have worked very hard to get all of that right. It's been a real game changer for us.
So is that revenue? Is that revenue for not just the footballing operations, but all of the various things that revenue coming to the stadium?
So you've got NFL games, you've got rugby, you've got concerts, all different kinds of banquets and corporate events and things like that. All that stuff's going on, and also there's a go-kart track underneath the stadium, don't you know? Yeah. So,
and also if you think about it, Stu. The last two seasons, we were in Conference League last year, nothing this year. That's without European money as well. That's pretty good, because I think all those other teams are in Europe, all those, Chelsea aren't this year, but all those other ones, Arsenal certainly are, and all the top three teams, English teams are as well.
Yeah, if we can add European football onto what we're going to be printing money, and we're one of the few clubs in the Premier League that keep our wage budget less than 50% of our income.
Is that what it is? Yeah.
Yeah. So there are a lot of clubs out there spending like 70, 80, 90% of their income is going out into wages. That's just not sustainable. You just can't keep that up. Which is why there are clubs that are looking to get rid of players. And I think, if we do make any signings tonight, I don't think we will, but if we do, it'll be against a club who are struggling financially or need to somehow balance their books. And we'll say, okay, this player here, we quite like the look of him. We'll take him off your hands for less money than you'd really want.
So, if you would know this better than me, because I'm not following it closely at all. In some ways, our two purchases it's probably the best business of any top Premier League club. Am I right?
Before tonight, we'd spent more than anyone and had been more active than anyone. Now there are other clubs catching up, like Crystal Palace have signed 2 players and spent some reasonable money. Yeah,
They're not going to.
there are clubs doing business now, but right up until this point, we had been the most active club.
And also, let's face it, probably got the better players of. They're both internationals that we brought in, you know. So, we've done pretty well.
You could argue what level international. Obviously, Timo Werner's not. I don't think he's a current German international. He's struggling to get into the squad.
But he's got like over 50 caps or 60 caps.
In fact, he's a great player. We will do very nicely to have him. Thank you very much. And for the money, was it 5 million euros to have him with us, and then 15 million to get it through and complete it. That's a snip.
So that's going back to what you said about really smart business.
Yeah,
you know, really smart business. You know, and even Dragushin, I don't know what his price was. Pretty reasonable.
About 30 million euros, I think, in total.
Which is what, 25 quid?
25 million pounds, yeah, something like that. Again, this is going off my memory and the stuff that's been reported in the press, which, as we all know, is not always close to anything like the reality.
Yep.
But maybe one day we'll find out. When they release the books, we'll see what the actual price paid was.
Well, those top teams, our competitors for, say we are top 4, which is what, maybe 6 teams, because it doesn't look like Man U and Chelsea are going to get in there. Nobody's made any earth-shattering, game-changing incoming transfers except for maybe us.
They've had players going out more than players going in.
Right.
And, clubs, and Chelsea are not anywhere near us in terms of challenging for the positions we're going for. But they need a striker, and what they're doing is getting rid of a striker. Brocha's going to Fulham by the sound of it. So it's coming down to the finances and what they need to do to get themselves across the line in terms of balancing their books for the profitability and sustainability of their club. So I don't see anyone being signed by Liverpool, Manchester City, Arsenal that we think and go, oh, it would have been nice for us to have signed them. I think they've done their work before.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And to be fair, to a vast majority, so had we. We could have survived without signing Werner. We could have survived without signing Dragushin. The point, reality is Dragushin's come in at just the point where our 2 main central defenders have come back. So
yeah, but Ange was crying out for another defender.
But it's a nice to have, not a I really need. I suspect he'll start against Everton because I think Ange might look at it and go, well, playing the centre backs this much after coming back from an injury, maybe it's worth giving. It's probably Werner, I think.
No, Dragushin's coming in.
Sorry, not Werner. Van der Ven. Van der Ven, I think, is probably the one that would make way. Or maybe he'll go to 3 at the back like he's played for the ends of the last 2 games. So
That's true. And Sonny, looking forward to Sonny. He'll probably be revved up. If he wins, he'll be even more revved up. I'm really looking forward to having Sarr back. And I think you made a good point about Bissouma. In those first 10 games, he was terrific, It'd be nice to have that sort of quality, that level back again, because he did drop off,
His form massively dropped off when Maddison wasn't in the team. But I felt that players were drawn towards Maddison and gave Bissouma the space. As soon as he wasn't there to take those players away, people were closing Bissouma down a lot more, and he was getting caught. Yeah, and maybe there's another one who didn't play a lot of football last season. So maybe playing that much football just started to catch up with him. I think he's a fantastic footballer. He's a great footballer, and I would like to see him in the team. But are we going to be playing with him or Bentancur? Are we going to play with him and Bentancur, in which case we don't play with Sarr? Or do we play Bentancur, Sarr, and Bissouma and not play Maddison to give him a rest? There's so many options that we could do.
Nice to have that.
Yeah, very nice.
So Werner, you said, well, we didn't really. I think we kind of did, because it gives us options that we didn't have before, Stu, and that's great. And it was just cool to see Johnson come off the bench and score and look lively, and nice option to have, Maybe Werner will be coming off the bench, who knows? But nice to have that option as well. It's what we got, 16, 17 games. It's looking. What do you think? Do you think we can get into the top three, into the third place possibly?
Oh, I think Arsenal are catchable. I don't think Arsenal is so good that we can't catch them. I was looking at the form earlier. Their form does not look great.
3 points ahead of us, yeah.
Yeah, they're not that far ahead of us. They're not unbeatable. We've got to play them again. If we beat them, we're in with a shout. We're fourth in the league.
We're in with a shout.
Well, look, we're fourth in the league, and the 3 sides above us have not beaten us in the league this season. So that's not bad.
That's not bad. Wow, that is true. We've drawn them all, I think, right?
Liverpool we beat
Liverpool, beat Man U. Hey, this is a question not to do with transfers, but this is kind of interesting. What's up with the refereeing and us?
You're not allowed to send off players against Tottenham, are you? You can send off Tottenham players, but you can't send off players playing against Tottenham.
Oh, so is that just a perception, our perception, or is it you might have mentioned this, a reaction to the fact that they screwed up on the Liverpool game, and that they're just walking on eggshells vis-a-vis us? I think John Light on our CADS page had said something to the effect of, they're just so scared to make mistakes against the big clubs. And I asked, well, we're one of the big clubs,
Yeah, we are.
We are one of the big clubs, So is it just our perception, or is there something really going on?
I think every club looks at it and says we've been hard done by referees. When we played Man City, we looked at it and went, we've been really hard done by referees. They shouldn't have allowed that goal. But Man City players are going, the ref was such a, he was really in favour of Tottenham, and there's no way that game should have been allowed to be played that way. They were getting away with some horrible fouls again. I was like, when did we horribly foul them? I don't remember this. So yeah, there's probably a perception bias there where I don't see the really nasty tackles. So only when I was watching the game back from Brentford yesterday, one of their players gets booked immediately. You can see Richarlison's in there giving him a little bit of shove and a bit of words. And we've got some players that got a bit of edge to them. It's not to be hidden. So maybe the opposition feel that, those players should be getting booked because they're a little bit mouthy, or they've put in some little nasty tackles. GLC is well known for putting in a few nasty little tackles and getting up people's noses. So
Romero, Paro, I think.
Romero, I don't think gets away with anything. Romero, I think, is a full-blooded player who gets way over involved. His first game back, there was a two-footed stamp that if he touched the player, he would absolutely have been walking off there. And I don't think he gets away with anything. But I think a lot of that is down to the perception referees have of him. So there are certain players where the referee, their perception goes before them.
So you're essentially saying it's just our perception that we're not getting the fouls when other teams are not getting the fouls as well.
It's definitely our perception of it, but other clubs are saying similar things. So is it right? I don't know. I certainly felt yesterday with Norgard, he got booked, and then there were 5 fouls afterwards, which were potentially yellow card fouls. Why did he not get a second booking? How that game finished up with 11 men on the pitch on both sides. I was like, this is unusual. This shouldn't be happening. I thought it was very strange. And then when they actually took off a midfielder, they kept Norgard on. I was like, wow. They get tipped the wink by the refs. Oh, well, I'm not going to send him off, so you can bring off one of the other guys instead. That's not a serious thing. That wouldn't happen. But Chris Wilder, the Sheffield United manager, did you see the interview he gave?
Yeah. Oh, I just saw the headline that he says they're biased against his team, right?
Well, he said he's friends with a ex-Premier League referee who's still in contact with the others, and he said when he went into the Sheffield United job, he said, "Look, you got to know that when you go in there, you're not going to get any calls that go for you. It's always going to go to the big club. Because that's the perception. The perception is that the big clubs get the big calls, and the reality is it does happen. But as you said, we are one of the big clubs, so why do we not seem to get that benefit? Maybe we do, and we're missing it. But I certainly thought yesterday Norgard should have been sent off. Richarlison's goal where Nathan Collins,
Guy Collins,
yeah,
he drove twice, didn't he?
yeah,
That was a big. Richie might not.
There was one where he brushed his nipple and he went down like he'd been punched in the solar plexus.
Was that the one where Richie actually scored? Because that
was the second one. It was like where he brushed up against him and there was a delay, and then Nathan Collins fell over and he just clipped it. Lovely finish, but let's not forget the quality of that finish. That was a beautiful finish from Richarlison. So, yeah, more of that, please.
Oh, but I wanted to talk about that in a second about Richarlison and Brazilian style. But yeah, there was some stuff going on yesterday. They were flopping and this and that, and it just seems that the way that we play the entertaining football, that other teams have first soused us out, teams who are not Man City or Liverpool or Arsenal, will say, we're going to play a certain way. We're going to niggle, we're going to kick, we're going to get away, we're going to shirt tug, whatever. We're going to play the low block. We're going to counterattack. We're going to push in on Vicario, and the refs are not going to call us. And it just seems like there is a sort of, way to play Tottenham type thing,
Yeah, potentially. It didn't do Brentford any good yesterday. Hasn't done a lot of clubs any good. We're fourth in the league because we've been good when we had our best team out on the pitch.
They could have tied us. Unfortunately, it would have been horrible. They could have tied us up in the last minute or whatever, So that could have been 1 point. So
they should have been 2 goals up at half time, because that Ivan Toney header definitely should have gone. He should have done better with that. So, yeah.
So it is kind of difficult to know whether or not we're biased or other teams, but we don't seem to get too many. Have we only had 1 penalty this season?
1 penalty all season, yeah. And there were definitely others that should have been given. There've been stamps on our players in the box. That, come on, how did we not get a penalty for that?
Something you just mentioned about, before I lose a track on Richie. He scored the goal of the tournament at the World Cup, and if you recall, that was such amazing Brazilian skill, right, to knock the ball over his shoulder and I think hit it with the other foot for the goal. Interesting, you made a point there that he doesn't seem to do that sort of Brazilian Dele Alli type thing, and he's just working his butt off, and his goals mostly are within the 6-yard box. They're nothing spectacular. They're very opportunistic, fantastic. It's great. So he is playing kind of differently, isn't he? He's not playing the Brazilian way. You would never even know he's Brazilian, apart from the pigeon dance. You'd never even know he's Brazilian, right?
No, if you told me that he was, I don't know, Italian, you might go, yeah, I can see it.
It's great. If that's what Ange has turned him into, a guy who's appreciated. One of my cousins is an Everton fan, and they sort of poo-pooed when he came to before he went on the street, before he got the surgery. We're going, he was just sort of flattered to deceive when he was with us, Everton fan. And I'm going, well, maybe Ange is turning him into something else here. I think 10 goals might have been the most Premier League goals he'd scored. He's got 8 now.
Yeah, he's on course to break his own personal goal-scoring record in the Premier League, which would be very nice to see. But yeah, no, I thought he's been very good. In terms of that goal, I think it was against Serbia in the World Cup. Yeah, that was the only bits of the World Cup I actually saw. I didn't watch any of the World Cup apart from that one highlight.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He scored.
I have to say, with tongue in cheek, I said I just seen the highlights for it. It was a terrible first touch from Richarlison, wasn't it?
Yeah.
But yeah, no, he did well. But he's a player who's worked hard, but he's never seemed comfortable in possession of the ball for much of this season until he had the surgery, and he's come back a different player. He suddenly looks a lot more comfortable. He doesn't. I mean, there was one point earlier in the season he got put through and he stood on the ball. Like he was trying to control it, trying to get through, and he stood on the ball. He was just so badly coordinated, and you're like, oh my, this is what we're having at the moment up front. And it was like trying to play up to a brick wall, and the ball was just bouncing off him. It wasn't holding at all. And now he's looking so much better. He's looking like a proper Premier League striker who can
Could have
score.
been playing in pain. Could have been playing in pain. You know, quite
by the sound of it, he was like Sonny was last year.
Right.
Sonny had a bad season last season. Richarlison's had a bad season this season up until the point he got the surgery. But good on them, because they're both doing extremely well now, or Sonny will be when he gets back, I'm sure, unless he gets injured in the next couple of games. Let's fingers crossed he comes back fit. He's having a good season. Richarlison's having this turnout season for us, where we're looking like we've got a number 9 up front that can score
60
goals.
million spent on him. Yeah.
Yeah, they wanted 80 million. There is no way that he is an 80 million pound player. Yeah.
You know what? If we can be lucky enough to keep, excuse me, healthy, we really could have a nice run in. We really could, because it was looking good in the first 10 games when we had a healthy team.
Top of the league.
And then, what? You're right. Top of the league. I forget.
Of the league.
Right.
No, with a fully fit squad, we were an extremely good side. We are an extremely good side with a fully fit squad. That still remains the truth. Whether we can get people up to that level again and we can put that kind of run in, whether there was some luck in there as well. Let's not.
Sure.
You know, we weren't always completely convincing, but we did well. And then the wheels fell off a bit with the Chelsea game. Injuries, suspensions, everything that happened in that. And from that point on, we've struggled a bit and we've slipped down the league, and now we're back to 4th. Again, I still think we can get 3rd. But at the start of the season, I was thinking I would be very happy with 5th.
Yeah.
I said 5th. You said 4th. I know.
I said the same thing.
Yeah.
I thought outside of the top 4, outside of the Champions League. And, you know, it would mean so much. The bean counters, Mr. Levy and staff would say, Ange, you know how much money this means to us? Okay.
Yeah.
We actually, you know, I'm sure Ange knows. I'm sure you know.
Ange knows, but I think, did you see the interview he had, the press conference he had the other day? So it was before the Brentford game, and they were like, one of the journalists said to him, you know, now you've got he said, now you're not going to win it. Now you're not going to win any silverware. And Ange looked at him and went, are you saying we're not going to win the league? Are you definitely ruling us out of winning the league? And it's like, he still thinks there's a chance. That man still thinks it's maybe it's a bit tongue in cheek, but that man still thinks percentage wise. Was it 1%? Is it 5%? Is it more? How much confidence does that guy have in us winning the league? He still thinks there's a chance.
I think there was more.
I don't, but he does.
He does. I think you're right. I think he believes there is a chance. There was a bit of tongue in cheek because I think he was playing with the journalist going, "What do you mean counting us off?" type thing.
Yeah.
But yeah, maybe he does. So if we were in first place after 10 and we get these guys back, then we're still, we're 8 points behind Liverpool. That's a chunk. That's almost 3 games. That's a big gap, type thing. But we're in it for top 3. About top 4. I'll take top 4.
Let's be realistic. Although I've got a feeling that the announcement for Klopp leaving is going to end up biting them. They're going to end up with a cup. They're going to end up with a Carabao Cup. I don't see them. I don't see Chelsea beating them in the Carabao Cup. Do you? And look at the result from the other night. It was emphatic.
I didn't see them.
Yeah,
Really?
4-1 or something like that they won. And they were so much better. Oh, breaking news, Bournemouth signed Getafe striker Enes Ünal, so that's not really anything new. So I don't see Chelsea winning that game. So they're going to end up with a cup, which will give them the impetus to go on for the rest of the season, because they're still fighting for top place in the league. They're up there they're up for the treble at the moment. So
quadruple.
What did they win earlier in the season?
Well, this is the league. Didn't they win the League Cup?
No, if they haven't, nobody's won the League Cup yet, but they could win the League Cup. They could win the FA Cup. It's still the FA Cup and the league, so they could get a treble.
No, they're in the Champions League still.
Yeah, they're not going to win the Champions League, are they?
Oh, why not?
Okay, maybe they get a quadruple. But then Manchester City can win. Yeah, Manchester City can. They've already won the Club World Cup Championship. They could win the league. They could win the FA Cup. And they could very good chance they could win the Champions League. So again, they could also be up for a quadruple themselves. So for me, I think City are the team to beat. City will put together a run of games that will make them very, very difficult to beat and hard, and they will be the side that goes in with everything behind them. And the players will be looking, Liverpool players will be looking and saying, oh, our manager's going, what's my future at this club like? What's the next manager going to think of me? And we've already seen little bits and pieces of that come out. So, yeah. We'll see how that one goes.
Everton next. No, how much time we have left?
We've got 25 minutes up till the end of the transfer window, and then we'll see how it goes after that. If there's not a lot to talk about, maybe we'll cut it short. Maybe we'll go on for the full hour, but at the moment, we've got an hour and 25 minutes left on the books, but we'll see how it happens. See how things go.
Why would you do this by yourself?
Well, when are you leaving? You're off in a bit, aren't you?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I've got a session to do. I can hang in for the rest of the half hour, another half till the end.
Well, I do believe Austin will be joining me soon. So.
Oh yeah, Austin, great. Oh, Austin will take up all that space, so don't worry about
that. We'll see how it goes. We'll see what it comes up. But I mean, it's not looking like there's a huge amount of stuff going on right now for us. But if we look around at other clubs, who do you feel beyond us has done the best business so far?
I don't think anybody has for our competition. I'll tell you what's better is the teams that getting their injured players back, like Man City getting De Bruyne back. Well, who cares about who you bring in? You have De Bruyne back, and you've got Haaland back. Both those guys. That's like two of the best players. Period. So in that respect, I don't think Liverpool brought anybody in. I don't think Arsenal brought anybody in.
No.
Newcastle, Man U, who? I don't think any of them have.
Newcastle have been closer to losing players than bringing anyone in.
Trippier.
Trippier's almost went to Bayern Munich. Almiron, is that his name?
Almiron, yeah.
Yeah. Miguel Almiron.
Almost, but didn't.
Didn't. They probably, this is, again, it's the fiscal responsibility thing, Newcastle need to move some players on because they've got to balance their books. However much money they're getting pumped into them by their owners, they've got to balance their books. The money can be spent on infrastructure, but if you're overspending on the actual player side of things or wages, you've got to make that level out somehow. And I think that's why there's been talk about them going, because if they can sell a player for 50 million, that'll go a long way towards helping things out later on.
Well, I think the two players we brought in are so much superior to. Although didn't we bring in Bentancur and Decky in the January window? We did, didn't we?
Yeah.
Well,
and Pedro Porro.
Oh.
Yeah, a year ago yesterday, Pedro Porro was signed.
Because I was thinking back to the bad one, Nelson and
Saha.
The other guy.
Oh, those were the days. Yes, Nelson and Saha.
Yeah, exactly. Wait, Harry changed some things when he came in as well. He did bring some entertainment to our football again.
He got players believing in themselves again.
He had some good players. He really did have some.
Well, I mean, so did the previous manager, just wasn't making use of them. So,
yeah, but Birkinshaw definitely, when I mentioned him, he changed the culture there from a relegated team to bringing us back barely by the skin of our teeth back to the first.
Hang on. Spurs set to sign Lucas Bergvall from Djurgården for 10 million euros and will join in the summer.
Who's he?
17-year-old Swedish player. This has missed me somewhere. Where is this guy? There we go. So, fee is expected to be 10 million euros plus add-ons. He had been linked with a move to Barcelona. If that goes through, that's
what position?
Midfield. So he's, I believe, he's a deeper lying player. So potentially a player to come through later on, a few years' time. Maybe he'll be taking up the kind of Bissouma Bentancur role.
How do you spell his name?
Oh, now you've asked me. Berg, like Berg, like Henning. Val, Vall. Bergvall.
Bergvall. Okay. And he's Dutch?
Swedish. All I've seen him is a 40-second loop of video where he's tackling people, scoring a few goals, and making some nice passes. Based on that, get the boy in. There we go. We beat Barcelona to a player.
Wow. That's the one you had mentioned. The
that's the one. Yeah, it was a possibility for tonight, but they were saying it may be something that happens during the summer because he's 17. So because he's 17 and the fallout from Brexit, he can't join till he's 18. So,
but then he becomes a homegrown player or something like that, right?
Yeah, in a few years' time, he'll be a homegrown player.
Who's the guy that we got away with doing that? Was it Udagi or Sa?
One of those guys. Sa, yeah. And also the Croatian defender that we'll be bringing in next summer? He'll be coming in.
Vukovic or
it might be Vukovic, yeah. So he will also be nicely positioned for us because he will count as a homegrown player, even if he's been on loan for several seasons.
It's almost, you got to smile because there's almost some intelligence going into the trend,
right? There's some actual joined up thinking,
as opposed to if you think about it is 5 years though. Think about the Lo Celso and the Ndombele, that particular cock up of a transfer window. And also you can talk about the managers because in many ways that's a transfer too, of transferring the big guy in. We made some errors on that as well. So we're actually.
I've never agreed with the Mourinho deal. When Pochettino went, I was on the Nagelsmann train. I was like, get Nagelsmann in. If we have to, I didn't want Pochettino sacked to start with. I'd rather we backed him and got rid of a load of the players who were causing us the issues, like we did early on when he joined us. He came in and suddenly we shipped out players like Adebayor, like Kabul, who was seen as being slightly not problematic, but not really getting fully on board, shall we say. So
they call it the Kabul Cabal.
The Kabul Cabal, indeed. So I thought, okay, if we need to ship some players out, make some losses in the transfer market, let's do that. But let's keep Pochettino because he was so good for us. He was a breath of fresh air, and he made you proud to be a Spurs fan again. And then we lost all of that in one fell swoop by signing Mourinho.
Absolutely.
Mourinho was anti-Tottenham as far as I was concerned. And I said at the time, I will stick this out, but I do not expect to have to do that for too long. Because he hadn't been at a club for longer than 3 years for quite some time. And I was like, he'll be gone in 2. And he was less than that, 18 months or something by the end.
I stopped going to the pub to go watch the games. I loathed him. He's probably a nice guy as a human being, but as a manager and his approach to managing, I loathed him. And as you just said, the most antithesis of what a Spurs philosophy and manager should be. And I think I only went to 2 games that one particular season, his first season, because I just didn't want to see that dirge, And I remember this Saturday, I'm going to have to do it. Not getting up for games at 4 4:30, or when you're going to the
You enjoyed
pub.
your lay in.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
No, I didn't. Yeah, I can watch the replay. But to go to the pub for a 4:30 game, you gotta leave at 3:30. You know, it's gotta line up and whatever. Blah blah blah. And I just didn't go. Why, Ash? Why aren't you coming? Oh, because it's really a dirge. It's painful to see my Tottenham play this way. So yes, totally agree with you on that.
The thing that really annoyed me was we had a good team at the time. We had some good players. We had some good attacking players, and you're like, let them off the leash, let them go at it, let them attack, let them play the kind of football we know that they can play. And there was one game where he did it. He let them off.
Man, you?
No, I think it was like Fulham or something. He let them off the leash, and we played really nice football, and then we let in 2 goals right at the end and lost the game. And he basically came out in the press conference and went, "Yeah, that's why we play my football, and not what the fans want." And ever since then, you've been waiting for someone to come along and do what Andrew's doing, because Conte, Tordo, as I call him. Translate it if anybody is not unsure of why I call him Tordo.
What does that mean?
You're gonna have to look it up. Yeah.
Yeah, you spell it Tordo?
Tordo, yeah.
Go ahead.
Translate that for yes. So when he came in, I was like, this is not a good move. This is not a good move for us, because we're bringing in another guy who's like micromanaging defense first. He's not gonna free the players up to go and do what they want to be doing. He's going to be intent on playing his brand of football, which is not that exciting. And again, it was a case of, I'll wait this guy out. And I'm pretty sure players were thinking the same thing. But at the same time, I got the feeling that bringing in people like Mourinho and people like Conte was Daniel Levy kind of pandering to Kane and saying, we're bringing in winners. We're going to bring in players, managers who have got a history of winning cups. Here's your chance. Sign a new contract with us. And he didn't sign a new contract. And eventually ended up leaving. Maybe if I don't think we could have got Ange Postecoglou the summer before. I don't think when we were shopping around for a new manager before Conte was brought in, when Nuno was brought in, we wouldn't have gone for someone with Postecoglou's background at that point, because at that point he was joining Celtic. He just didn't have that history over here in the UK, and people were still like, who's this guy? I mean, when he joined Celtic, I was like, who is this guy? I didn't know anything about him.
Exactly.
I looked him up. I looked up his record. I knew a little bit about him afterwards, but I'd never seen anything of his players or his teams. So, although I did vaguely remember the Australian national team when they did well.
They went to the World Cup, right?
Yeah.
Under him. By the way, I couldn't find a proper meaning for Toto.
It is a Tordo. It is a small bird.
Thrush. They say it's a thrush.
Yes, as in it's an irritating.
An irritating cur.
Yeah, exactly. It's a word I do not use in polite company. So, yeah.
All right. So cur is a better way of saying
cur. Yes. No. Cur has the same first 2 letters as the word I'm thinking of, but it's not cur. Right. Yeah.
Yeah. So there you go.
Which is where thrush comes in.
All right. Yeah. Okay. There you go.
So yeah, Tordo. Yeah, I was not a fan. Not a fan of him coming in. And again, I was determined to wait him out, but I didn't know who'd be coming in next. And we'd gone down this road of Mourinho,
you were thinking
Nuno,
Nagelsmann,
Conte.
probably, right?
I would have liked to have seen Nagelsmann. I'm a fan.
Do you think he would have done as well or equally as well as Ange has done with us?
I think it would have been different. His Hoffenheim side, his Leipzig side, really good attacking sides, really well organised. Yeah, they were fun to watch. It was a period of time where I was actually being paid to watch football and write about it. So I was very happy to do that. Got the chance to watch some of their games, and from that point on, I was a fan. And I was hoping that he would come in. Maybe there's still time because he's still young and we've got many, many years ahead of us. So we'll see how it goes. But he's with Germany until the summer, and then probably it's going to be Klopp after that, unless he wins it.
Liverpool might go into a little. There's always the possibility post Alec Ferguson, Man U have not been the same. We're talking about how long
Arsene Wenger, Arsenal weren't the same.
That's true too. Well, they're somewhat competitive, and United has won a couple of cups, but they're not the way they used to be. Yeah, exactly. We might have got lucky with Ange. We might have got lucky with Vicario. Might have got lucky with Ange.
I don't know if we got lucky with Vicario. I think it was good planning. I think we got lucky with Paratici, and the scouting team that he brought in.
How much do you think he's involved still now?
Oh, he's apparently Ange has admitted to having telephone conversations and Skype messages with him, and
is that right?
Yeah, okay. Yeah. So he's obviously still involved, but now he's involved as a consultant. He's not the technical director. He's not a director of the company anymore. So we've had a few guys from the Italian league who've been very good, right? Vicario, Udogi, Bentancur, Decky. Anybody else? Romero.
Romero, right. Right. Nobody else in this off.
Well, that's 5 members of the team. That's not bad. So yeah, effectively.
Yeah, exactly. How much do we pay for Maddison?
40 million, but then we got 10 million back for selling them wings.
That's a snip.
Well, if you work it out at 30 million, it's ridiculous bargain.
Ridiculous. And look how much the Calcedo, 100 million or something.
Yeah.
Has he even done anything for them? Good. I hope he continues to play.
He's had a few games where he's looked good, but has he put together a consistent run? I don't think he has yet. But they've spent a lot of money on some big ticket players, but apparently they had a rule they wouldn't pay by anyone who was older than 24. So you're sacrificing experience, you're sacrificing that know-how and building a very young squad. So suddenly you've got players like Mudryk, you've got players like Caicedo, all those people coming through, but Jackson, Jackson, they just don't have the experience yet to grab hold of a game and make it theirs. And that's a failing of ours as well, I think. And like one of the things we saw yesterday against Brentford is we were getting involved in little niggles and getting involved in stuff we didn't need to. Where a bit more maturity, we'd have imposed our game on them and not got involved in that tit for tat.
You saw that, right? That was really. I was surprised how much it was pissing off Ange. That he said we were distracted, and I went, wow, that's very interesting that he would say that, make a point about that, because all of our goal scorers, well, maybe not Udogi, but the other two guys were certainly making a point to our south stand there. That we remember what's his name did. Is he French? That guy?
Maupay, he's French.
Oh, Maupay, okay.
Yeah, Neil is not a very French name.
I know. That's what I was wondering about that.
Bonjour, Neil. Yeah.
He's like a little street, like Gavrache. He's like a little street urchin,
Yeah, I didn't realise quite how dislikable he was until last night. I mean, at Everton, he was very indistinct. He didn't do a lot. Previous time at Brentford, he was known for being a bit, a little bit streetwise and stuff. But I never saw that from him in a game against us because I didn't go around specifically looking to watch Brentford games or anything like that. Because I don't get paid to watch football anymore. But
yeah, exactly.
Now I just do it for the love of the game.
Yeah, so he surprised you how irksome he is?
Oh yeah, massively surprised. And I thought he was the worst yesterday out of everyone. I thought Norgard did his job. Jensen did his job. Nathan Collins showed himself up to be a bit of a lightweight. I was going to say that, but I thought I won't. I'll leave it to.
I said it.
You said it. There you go.
Yeah. It's not even 4-letter word.
Yeah, I know, but you got to be careful. So I thought he really showed himself up because he's a big hulking central defender, and yeah, I said his nipple didn't even get tweaked; it was gently brushed. You know, like.
Yeah, so I'm actually surprised that manager, Frank, he's German. He's
Thomas
right?
Frank, Danish, I think.
Yeah, oh, Danish, all right.
Yeah.
I'm surprised because he seems like a pleasant enough fella, but the way he was describing his players and the way they played, it was like he was happy and joyous about the horrible way that they were playing.
Yeah.
Yeah,
he seemed to be, and there was a comment he made. It's like, oh, if they're a little bit upset about a darts celebration, then they've got bigger problems to worry about. I have to say, I thought it was mildly amusing. Same as when Saka did it against us. If you're going to make yourself known for having a celebration like that, if someone turns it against you, you get on with it.
Do you know over here in the NFL, they have a rule called taunting?
Yeah.
And you get two things. You get the team gets penalized and you get fined. So if you do that here in the NFL, you get penalized for that. So
nobody has a monopoly on a particular celebration. Nobody said only Alan Shearer can wheel away with his arm up in the air when he scored a goal. We saw that from Kane for a while.
Yeah, but this is a very specific, and Stu, he did it in front of our South End.
Yeah, it's gamesmanship.
Would you like our players to do that?
Come on, Lo Celso's done worse this season.
Like what? What do you do?
Oh, he's been a little wind-up merchant at times this season.
Okay.
Doing his best. That's why, the one yellow card he got, I think he was actually trying to be the peacemaker. It was quite surprising. He was already off. He was sitting on the bench and he was trying to calm everybody down around him, and he got in trouble for it.
And he barged into the guy. I did see that actually.
Yeah, no, that was against Haaland. Yeah, things like that. He's well known for doing
the little guy
like
barged into Haaland.
The dark arts. Yeah, when he and the men are together between them, I don't mind it because it's part of the game.
I don't know. As somebody said about trying to teach Richie about shithousery when Richie knows about those things too.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, he definitely does. Actually, he's been pretty good recently, right? He hasn't been falling over or he's been more focused.
I don't think there's been any dives. There's been no little keepy ups in front of the opposition to get whacked. Who did he get whacked by? Brennan Johnson.
What's that about Johnson? Sorry.
So when last season when we played Nottingham Forest, Richarlison got the ball and he did like little keepy ups. And then he passed it off against, so he then got the ball back, and one of their players came steaming in and just took him out, and that player was Brennan Johnson.
That was Johnson that did that?
That was Johnson. So apparently when he joined the club, about a week after he joined the club and he got into the WhatsApp group, like there was some welcome messages and stuff like that, and then Maddison came up, hey, do you remember this? And put the video up of him wiping out Richarlison.
I remember.
And everybody had a good laugh, and everybody's moved on, and everyone's friendly again. But yeah.
What do you think? This is an interesting point. Do you think, and it's a good point, a good observation, that there seems to be a real good camaraderie amongst our players, all very different from all around the world. Do you see that a little bit stronger, and definitely a benefit, a boon to us?
Yeah, I think so. I think that having that teamness, that teamwork, togetherness has really worked well for us. But yeah. But Ash, I know you've got to go. I don't want to keep you any later, and it's getting kind of late. So I think because no one else is joining, so I think we're going to call it there. So
call it all of us, yeah. So there This thing about this guy, this Dutch guy, we don't know about that.
Looks like Bergwall's gone through by the looks of it, so that he will be joining us in the summer. So there we go. There's our deadline day transfer signing, all done. It's all over.
You did a good job.
There we go. So thank you everybody for joining us. We will be back after the Everton game. It should be great. Let's look forward to another great game, and we'll be seeing you then. Until then, come on you Spurs.
Come on, Spurs.